I paid for my sister's education, while working 2 jobs only to have her call me a loser at a family dinner. She was shocked when I stopped paying her rent and told everyone why she could no longer afford her lifestyle when my younger sister Lauren got into her dream college. Everyone in the family acted like it was the greatest accomplishment of all time. My parents were beaming with pride. Lauren was already talking about the career she was going to have, and I was standing in the corner, quietly calculating how it was all going to work out. My parents didn't have the money to pay for her education. They made that clear when they started dropping hints in family conversations. Lauren is so smart, but college is so expensive these days, my mother would say, looking at me as if I didn't already know where this was going. I didn't have much. I was working as a mechanic and trying to save up for a house, but Lauren was my sister. And I figured, what's the harm in helping? So I pitched in. At first, it was small things, for textbooks, some groceries, but it didn't stop there soon. I was paying her rent, her utilities, even her nights out when she needed to de-stress every time she asked for money. It came with an excuse. I'll pay you back when I graduate, or Mom and Dad just can't help right now. What made it worse was that my parents acted as if I was obligated to help. Family takes care of family, bade. Say, as if I wasn't already breaking my back working 2 jobs to keep them afloat. Lauren, meanwhile, acted like the world revolved around her. She'd post pictures of fancy dinners and weekend trips, smiling as if she wasn't living on my dime. I kept telling myself this was temporary. Once she graduates, it'll all be worth it, I thought. But deep down, I was starting to resent the fact that my life was on hold while hers was moving full steam ahead, and I was footing the bill. I thought things would get better. Once Lauren settled into her college routine, I imagined she'd realize how much I was doing for her and show some gratitude. But if anything, her entitlement only grew. The first real sign was her spending habits while I was skipping meals and working late shifts to pay her rent. Lauren was flaunting her new wardrobe on social media. Designer handbags, trendy shoes, fancy dinners. Things I could never afford for myself. At first, I tried to rationalize. Maybe she got a part-time job, or maybe she was just overdoing it for appearances. But when I asked her about it, she shrugged it off. Everyone at school dresses like that, she said. I don't want to look like I don't fit in. It wasn't just her attitude about money. It was everything. She treated me like a walking ATM, never asking how I was or if I needed help. My parents weren't any better every time Itreed tried to talk about how much I was struggling. They'd guilt me into keeping quiet. She's your sister, my mother would say. She's building a future. You should be proud to help her. But it wasn't just helping. It was sacrificing. My weekends were gone. My savings were gone. And that house I'd always dreamed of, forget it. Meanwhile, Lauren couldn't even be bothered to send a thank you note. Instead, she called to complain about her professors, her work, or her roommates. She never once asked how I managed to juggle 2 jobs just to keep her afloat. Their resentment I'd buried began to bubble to the surface. I was tired of being treated like my life didn't matter as long as hers was moving forward. The turning point came when Lauren casually mentioned that she was thinking about studying abroad for a semester. She didn't even ask me if I could afford it. She just assumed I could handle it. Think it would be such a great experience, she said over the phone, her tone light and carefree. The program costs a little more, but it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing, right? I sat there gripping the phone, trying to process what she just said. I could barely keep up with her regular expenses, and now she wanted me to pay for a semester abroad. When I brought it up with my parents, hoping they'd finally come to their senses, they doubled down. This is an incredible opportunity. My mom said, you'll figure it out. You always do. I was floored. No acknowledgement of how hard I was working. No concern for my welfare. Just the expectation that I'd keep sacrificing. Because apparently, that was my role in the family. At the same time, Lauren's behavior became impossible. To ignore, she'd called to complain about the most trivial things, like how her roommate borrowed her shoes, or how the campus cafeteria didn't have any real lattes. She also began to make subtle jabs at me. She'd laugh about how I was always working and joke that I was married to my job. She doesn't appreciate you. A coworker said one night when I was venting during a break, "You bend over backwards and she acts like you owe her." For the first time, I began to wonder if they were right. Family dinner was supposed to be a casual get-together. My parents invited me over to catch up, and Lauren was back in town for a break from school. I didn't want to go, but I figured I could stand a few hours when I arrived. The atmosphere was already tense. My parents were fussing over Lauren, asking about her classes, her social life, and if she needed anything else for school. I sat quietly waiting for anyone to ask how I was doing. But of course, that never happened. Halfway through dinner, Lauren started talking about the study abroad program again. She went on and on about how amazing it would be, and how everyone she knew was doing it. She looked right at me and said, "I hope you're ready for a little extra work. Big brother. These programs don't come cheap." I froze. I couldn't believe she had the audacity to say that in front of everyone like it was a done deal. "Maybe you should get a part-time job," I said, trying to keep my tone light. Lauren laughed. "Me, a part-time job? That's funny. I'm too busy with school." That was it. The last straw. I put down my fork and stared at her. "You're joking, right? You think I'm just going to keep funding your lifestyle forever while you sit around doing nothing?" The room fell silent. My parents looked at me as if I'd just sworn at the dinner table. Lauren's jaw dropped, but she quickly recovered. "What's your problem?" she snapped. "You've always been so bitter. Just because your life isn't going anywhere doesn't mean you have to take it out on me." That hit me like a punch in the gut. After all I'd done for her, sacrificing my time, my money, my dreams. This was how she saw me, a failure. Her words hung in the air like a slap in the face. I could feel my blood boiling. But I wasn't going to let her have the last word. "Bitter," I said, leaning forward. "You think I'm bitter because my life isn't going anywhere?" "Lauren, my life isn't going anywhere because I was too busy funding yours." My parents immediately jumped to her defense. "That's inappropriate," my mom said, her voice sharp. "You're her brother. It's your job to support her." "My job?" I repeated, letting out a bitter laugh. "When did it become my job to work 2 jobs so she could live in luxury? When did it become my job to sacrifice my entire future so she can have hers handed to her on a silver platter?" Lauren folded her arms and rolled her eyes. "Oh, there it is," she muttered. "The martyr routine." That was it. I was done. "You know what?" I said, standing up. "Go ahead and call me a failure, Lauren, but at least I worked for everything I have. What have you done?" "Nothing. You sit around spending my money while you pretend you're better than me." I turned to my parents, "And you two are no better. You've enabled their selfishness at every turn, and I'm done playing along. I'm not paying for anything anymore. Another rent, not her tuition, nothing." The silence was deafening. Lauren's face went pale, and for the first time she looked genuinely shocked. "You can't do this," she said, her voice shaking. "How am I supposed to live?" "Figure it out," I said, grabbing my jacket. "I've been doing it for years.